We're just waiting.
Oh.
Yeah, for the technology to kick in. Get ready to go. All right. I call to order the October meeting of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. Good morning to one and all. Thanks everyone for joining us. And we'll jump right into the agenda, and we'll begin our meeting with the introduction of a new senior leader. President Gabel, will you join me at the podium?
Dr. Priya, if you could join us up here, please. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm so pleased to introduce Shashank Priya as the new Vice President for Research. A leading scholar, researcher, and administrator, Shashank has extensive experience across academia, industry, and the public sector. He joins us from Penn State, where he was AVP and Director of Strategic Initiatives. There, he was responsible for facilitating teams for scaled interdisciplinary research and oversaw the Strategic Interdisciplinary Research Office, amongst other duties. He's been highly successful in generating federal funding across multiple campuses through his work with the National Science Foundation and multiple other federal agencies. He is a professor of materials science and engineering, having authored or co-authored more than 450 papers and holds 10 US patents. He is also a strategic leader and collaborator of the highest integrity, and I have every confidence that he will elevate the University of Minnesota's research enterprise. I know I speak for all of us when I say that we very much look forward to working with him to fulfill our system-wide strategic goals and amplify our impact and service to our state and beyond. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Shashank Priya. Would you like to say a few words?
Some prepared remarks. First of all, thank you very much, President Gabel, Chair Powell, and the board members. Thank you very much. So it's really an honor to be standing here today and starting in this position. Actually, as I was looking at the next steps of my career, I really became drawn to university for many reasons. For its strength in research and innovation, for its location in this very vibrant metropolitan area with legacy of a lot of Fortune 500 companies, world-class medical research, campuses across the state, and heavy focus on the student success. The U is a member of what I call billion-dollar research club. In 2020, only 21 universities were a member of this club. As you have heard from my predecessors in this role, that research is teaching and training. A billion-dollar research and innovation enterprise is home to top-notch researchers who continuously bring scientific discoveries and learning from their laboratories into the classroom. And it is the state-of-the-art facilities which provides fertile ground for training our students and exposing them to early on in their career to cutting-edge technologies, thereby providing them the best workforce for our industries. It is this very virtuous cycle that the convergence of research, teaching, and training, and infrastructure and facilities becomes a magnet for attracting the best talent in the world to our campus. During my search process, actually, I had discussions with many of the faculty members and also with my colleagues and mentors at Penn State and Virginia Tech. One of them, a mentor of mine for a long time, told me, Shashank, UMN is among the leaders in polymer science. It has provided groundbreaking discoveries in the field. Another colleague commented, I visited the University of Minnesota many times, and I go there regularly to access the Center for Magnetic Resonance Research and their leading research facilities. It is among the best places in the world in neuroscience. In short time I've been here on the ground, I've become more impressed and knowledgeable about all the research strength that Minnesota offers, including its geography. I'm finding out more about the great natural resource and water research at our Duluth campus, the renewable energy research at the Morris campus, the innovative education model at the Rochester campus, and the agricultural strength at the Crookston, and many other strengths at our campuses and our facilities across the state. I should also point out that I've been greeted with great warmth and interest wherever I have gone. People who have gone above and beyond in welcoming me and my family. Every time I start a meeting, the first 15 minutes of the meetings are actually people asking me about my family, about my housing, and have I settled. It just shows the great community and the great culture that we have here. These combination of great people, top-notch talent, and the caliber of our academic leadership, and the leading edge facilities and infrastructure, these are all ingredients for success and for doing the big things. Building on this, the question that now I ask myself is, where do we see ourselves in the next decade? In the same NSF HEART survey in 2020, there were only 4 universities that had research expenditures higher than $1.5 billion. We can call it $1.5 billion research club. How do we get there? How do I position ourselves to be a member of that club? And so looking into the future, I want to try to position ourselves and advance in that direction. One of the things we are planning to do, along with our colleagues here in the room, federal funding agencies, partners in industry, is organize a workshop called 2030 Workshop. We want to be leading the future research areas, not be a follower. I want to be sure that my office and other folks who work with us in this research community are providing highest level of services while ensuring that research adheres to very important regulatory compliance and ethical standards. And in doing so, if we can free up some of our researchers' time that they devote to other things rather than doing the discovery or creativity or teaching and mentorship, that hopefully will have influence on the outcomes that we achieve in our research. This effort aligns well with the effort of Senior Vice President France's office on the PEAK initiative, but now looking at the research efficiency. And in keeping with President Gable's Impact 2025 plan, I'm also very much interested in ensuring that we as an institution are making and investing in the best shared facilities and equipment, and we'll be hiring a senior leader in our office to drive this priority. So thank you very much for this very, very exciting opportunity. Since being appointed here in the job, I've been sharing my ideas with President Gable, Provost Croson, Senior Vice President France, and many other leaders in this room, on the Zoom, and around the campus. And everybody has been very supportive and very welcoming. And I want to take this opportunity to once again, in person, thank you all. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
All right, continuing with our agenda, the next item of business before us is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved and seconded? Any discussion? Hearing none, no questions or comments. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. All right, next we'll hear the report of the President, President Gable.
Thank you, Chair Powell, Vice Chair Sviggum, members of the board. It's been a great start to the fall semester. I want to begin by discussing public safety because I know we all share a common goal to ensure the health and safety of every member of our university community. To this end, we have been investing significant time and resources, a lot of attention into a layered and comprehensive approach to safety. For example, in recent weeks, we launched Dinkytown Alerts, which is a pilot program through December 31st. This incorporates updates from Minneapolis police outside the required Clery geography, but within an area that many of our community members consider campus. We renewed our contract with the Safety Guides program for an additional year. We hired an assistant director for safety communications and internal communications consultant for safety. We offered UMPD positions to several candidates and are continually actively recruiting for more. We installed steel plates in Dinkytown to curb exhibition racing and other car-related challenges. We announced that the Minnesota State Patrol and Sheriff's Office have added additional officers around campus, and Metro Transit has increased their number of officers around the light rail. Members of the board, as we've discussed, we're also recommending to you a $5 million request in recurring public safety funding from the legislature as part of the university's biennial budget request. Those initiatives would include doubling the planned number of security officers on campus, expanding overtime patrol shifts per week, replacing vehicles and old security equipment and outdated building access, adding a second K-9 unit for special events and campus safety, and maintaining or improving IT systems that are a cornerstone to running safety through technology. In addition, we're in the process of interviewing applicants for 10 community safety officer positions and reviewing student applications for security monitor positions. We continue to evaluate with the city, local businesses, MPD, et cetera, the results of the Dinkytown Safety and Pedestrian Access Pilot, which we will take under consideration before proposing more permanent solutions. We're also working with the city of Minneapolis to add 2 blue light kiosks in the Dinkytown area, and we're waiting on a decision on our submitted budget request to the city of Minneapolis for 170 additional street lights for the entire Marcy Holmes Dinkytown area. This $2.83 million request has to be approved via the city's budget process. We've also had nearly 19,000 activations of the Universal Transit Pass that is now available to all students on the Twin Cities campus. This represents a 46% adoption rate and provides students with unlimited access to the regional transit system in the Twin Cities metro area. Based on the success of the student program, we're beginning to explore offering the Universal Transit Pass to faculty and staff in the future. So members of the board, the steps we've taken and will take are centered in the prioritization of everyone in our community, students, faculty, and staff's safety, both on campus and in the neighborhoods surrounding our campus, and our team's working every day to consider and implement solutions through that lens. Some updates on searches. Since we met in September, we announced the launch of a national search for the next University of Minnesota Morris Chancellor, as we discussed yesterday. The Morris campus plays a critical role in our path forward as a university system and through our system-wide strategic plan, MPACT 2025. I want to express my gratitude to Pei Eng, University of Morris Acting Dean and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, and Michael Rodriguez, University of Minnesota Twin Cities Dean of the College of Education and Human Development and Morris alum, for agreeing to serve as co-chairs of the search committee. We're in the process of composing the full search committee in the coming weeks, and we'll then host listening sessions with key stakeholders on and off campus to help inform the search process and position profile. Ideally, the timeline would then yield our opportunity to host public interviews on campus and then announce an appointment before the end of the spring semester. This will be, as always, a fully consultative process, including ensuring substantial Morris representation on the search committee and considering input from the entire campus community in alignment with the University of Minnesota Morris Constitution. I also want to extend my sincere appreciation to Acting Chancellor Janet Schrunk Erickson for her continued leadership and service as this process unfolds. I'd also like to update you, members of the board, on our collective bargaining process. Over the past several months, the university has been engaging in ongoing system-wide contract negotiations with the Teamsters Union, which represents about 5.7% of university employees, or approximately 1,400 staff members in our food services, facilities, land care, housing, and other units. Since June, we have been negotiating to find an equitable resolution with our valued Teamster employees and provide them with appropriate raises and additional support. Last week, we presented an offer of a new contract to union leadership, which represented the highest increase the university has offered the Teamsters in the last 26 years. However, since the union filed for mediation, we have not received a counteroffer to any of our offers. And earlier this week, the university received official notice from Teamsters 320 that the union plans to strike on an unannounced date, though the earliest date under current law would be October 22nd. We will continue to engage union leadership, and we are making plans should workers go on strike. We also have plans to ensure that public safety, student services, research, and campus operations will continue. That means that every campus, college, and unit is moving ahead with plans to operate to the fullest extent possible, beginning on October 22nd in the event of a strike. Our residence halls, dining services, classrooms, and other facilities will continue to operate, though there will be changes to things like hours, menus, schedules, etc. But I want to be clear that we are fully committed to continuing to find common ground with our valued employees and their leadership to avoid a strike that would hurt members of our university community, including those employees. So we hope to find an equitable resolution through continued mediation, which has been scheduled in the coming days, and I remain very hopeful that we will. With regard to university history, members of the board, as I noted at the September meeting, we're taking another important step in our building naming process as we undertake a review of honorary naming, starting with the 4 oldest named buildings: Falwell Hall, Sanford Hall on the Twin Cities campus, Keele Hall, and Spooner Hall on the Crookston and Morris campuses, respectively. Each of these namings are under review because of the 75-year sunset provision required now of honorary namings, and this group of 4 was decided in consultation with the All-University Honors Committee, taking into specific account their capacity over the 2022-2023 academic year to address this first tranche of buildings. We have a November 11th deadline approaching, which is the deadline to submit a request for indefinite retention of a name and or to recommend a replacement or new name for the 4 buildings that we just listed. And I encourage members of our community to visit the All-University Honors Committee's website for detailed information about how to submit either of those or both of those applications. So after submission and review of these written requests, we aim to confirm either the retention of or renaming for these 4 buildings by the end of this upcoming academic year, and there will be lots of consultation with this board as this process unfolds, particularly this first time as we learn our lessons on how to do this in the best possible way. But I want to extend my sincere appreciation to the All-University Honors Committee for agreeing to take the lead on this very important and meaningful work for our community. So members of the board, since our last meeting, a little bit of an update on the events that I've been participating in, as is our practice. We welcomed our alumni home during Gopher Homecoming, including participation in the Alumni Awards reception, Skyumania, the Alumni Association Board of Directors meeting, and for many of us, the Homecoming Parade. We've welcomed delegations since the last time we were together from Iceland and Vietnam. Senator Amy Klobuchar was here for the inaugural Mondale Dialogues at the Humphrey School, and University of Rochester President Sarah Mangelsdorf received the university's Outstanding Achievement Award. She earned her PhD here, and this award is conferred only on graduates or former students of the university of the highest accomplishment. I also just participated this week in marching band rehearsal, bringing back very happy high school memories. The Campbell Hall opening, the new faculty welcome reception, OED's welcome breakfast, new police officer swearing-ins, McKinsey's Higher Ed Education Task Force, the University President's Roundtable, the University Campus Leadership Forum, and did media with the Minnesota News Network, WCCO Radio, KYMN Radio, and the Minnesota Dailies At the Table with Gable series. We also took part in the Special Olympics Minnesota Polar Plunge at Huntington Bank Stadium and at their CEO breakfast, which we were honored to host right here in McNamara in my role as honorary co-chair of the 2026 Special Olympics USA Games, which will be hosted right here on the Twin Cities campus. I also worked with the foundation to visit donors in New York City and had the pleasure of traveling to Duluth to have a nice meeting with the UMD community and see the football game, and I went to the Michigan State away game for Gopher football. I've also engaged in my own board service for the Big Ten, Council on Competitiveness, Council of Presidents, ACE, the APLU, and the Minnesota Business Partnership, and visited with the Twin Cities Deans, System Council, Cabinet, FCC, SSCC, University Senate, and EMPC in the alphabet soup of acronyms that is the leadership of this institution. I was also very proud to accept an invitation to serve on the Carnegie Classifications Institutional Roundtable, which will offer perspective as part of updates to the Carnegie Classification classifications of institutions of higher education, which are a key measure in our strategic plan. So we have kicked off a very active fall semester, as this time of year always is, and I'm very grateful for the many opportunities I've had to engage over recent weeks. So, members of the board, as we have started to do as a very happy practice, I have some shout outs that make us UMN proud. So first, a shout out to our distinguished McKnight and Regents Professor of History and Population Studies, Stephen Ruggles, for being named a 2022 MacArthur Fellow, or what is referred to as a Genius Grant recipient, which includes his work as a historical demographer in the building of the world's largest publicly available database of population statistics. A shout out to Dr. Mike Ulsterholm for serving as the Grand Marshal for Twin Cities Homecoming, and a shout out to all of this year's Homecoming Award recipients. A shout out to Associate Professor Lars Hansen for being one of only 5 scientists nationwide to receive the prestigious American Geophysical Union Award, as well as the first recipient in the history of the university's Winchell School of Earth and Environmental Sciences. A shout out to eSports for winning the Big Ten Rocket League Team Championship, and to Gopher women's basketball coach Lindsay Whalen and the late Gopher alum Lou Hudson for their induction into the Naismith Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. And in the spirit of National Metric Week, a shout out to our Twin Cities campus for moving up its U.S. News rankings amongst publics to number 23, the campus's highest ranking in 12 years, which is currently on pace to reach our Impact 2025 goal of top 25 by 2025. And lastly, as has also become a happy practice, a video shout out about some other great happenings across the university. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, President Gable. Always a lift, and special congratulations on the polar plunge.
Thank you.
So turning to my report, I want to briefly revisit our priorities for the year ahead, our board priorities, and how they're tied not only to this month's agenda in committees and later on today, but our planning over the course of the year. As you all recall, our priorities were developed this summer in close collaboration with President Gable, and we have 3 key priorities. First is to oversee implementation of MPACT 2025 system-wide strategic plan with governance focus in a number of areas. First, engaging with enrollment strategies for each campus. focusing on plans to meet MPAC 2025 enrollment goals, including recruiting, retention, pricing, affordability, and financial aid, and oversee development and adoption of adjustment to enrollment goals. And I'll just pause here to note that yesterday, the Mission Fulfillment Committee tackled a discussion on enrollment at the Morris campus after having discussed Crookston in September. And there are separate conversations scheduled for each system campus in the year ahead. Second part of this objective is to maintain and reinforce efforts to foster inclusive campuses that reflect the university's diversity, equity, and inclusion values. And I'll note that on our agenda this morning, we have the opportunity to dive deep into this conversation with our new Vice President for Equity and Diversity, Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez, and several other DEI professionals from across the system. Continuing on with this objective, we oversee continued rollout of the university's targeted distributed learning strategy in support of greater access and student success, amplify the university's efforts to engage corporate partners and drive innovation in the Minnesota economy, and advance opportunities to broaden sponsored project research funding and elevate the university's national profile as a research powerhouse. And of course, just a few minutes ago, we had the opportunity to meet our new Vice President for Research, Shashank Priya, and we look forward to his annual report in December and how his vision will shape the future of research at the university, and we greatly look forward to it. Now, our second key board priority for the year is to maintain focus on public safety across the system with an emphasis on full implementation of efforts to increase Twin Cities campus safety. We just heard from the president on work there. I want to commend President Gabel and her leadership team for their diligence in addressing public safety on our Twin Cities campus. Health and safety of our students system-wide remains of utmost importance to the board, and we will continue to oversee and champion efforts to ensure that the entire university community feels safe. And then our third and final priority, driving health sciences partnerships and strategies to support medical education, improve clinical care, and more fully serve the people of Minnesota. And we all know that the work we do here to develop and advance healthcare access is critical to all Minnesotans. So I just want to thank the board again for the good work this summer in collaboration with the president to develop a very, very crisp and focused set of objectives. And also continued thanks to the board secretary and the board team for keeping these agendas very, very tightly focused on our objectives. And you will continue to see the agendas shaped by the priorities over the course of the year. So that concludes my comments, and we'll move on to the next item. Item 5 is receive and file reports, and please note those items in the docket materials. Item 6, the consent report for review and action. Is there a motion to approve the consent report? Second.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This is,
Yes, Regent Rocha.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask that item B be considered separately.
The second of the two items.
Yeah, please.
Okay, which I believe is nominations.
Correct.
Okay, right. Okay, so it's been requested that we separate out the second item. Why don't we, can we vote on the gift report now? So it's been moved and seconded, the first part of the consent report, which is the gift report. Any comments or discussion on the gift report? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we accept that part of the consent report. Item 2 is nominations to the University of Minnesota Foundation. I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair, there's no need for a separate motion. It's already on the table. It's just a separate vote.
All right. Regent Rocha?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason I requested a separation inconsistent with my position over time, this is an incredibly qualified group of people. The generosity of people on this list is unquestioned, and I would even point out that our colleague, Dr. Johnson, has, her experience, resume, service to the university clearly qualifies her as an excellent addition to the foundation board. My longstanding position is I don't believe that regents should be voting members of the foundation board. And so to that extent, and to ensure that there's no misunderstanding, I'll abstain from the vote on that basis.
All right, thank you, Regent Rocha. So these are nominations to the University of Minnesota Foundation. These are board-appointed seats. The nominees are Sherry Ballard, Rebecca Crooks Stratton, Dr. Ruth Johnson, John Lindahl, Mike Roman, the CEO of 3M, and Brad Wallen. It is a very strong slate. Any further discussion on this slate? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
And one abstention, Mr.
And one abstention. All right, thank you. That motion, the consent report is approved. All right, now we'll turn to a discussion of the scope and impact of DEI-related efforts system-wide. And we are joined this morning by, as I said, Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez, the Vice President for Equity and Diversity, Keisha Varma, Associate Vice Provost, Office for Equity and Diversity, Melinda Lindquist, Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the College of Liberal Arts on the Twin Cities campus, and Wendy Reed, Dean of the Swenson College of Science and Engineering on the Duluth campus. Now, while presenters are making their way forward, I'd like to turn it over to President Gable, who I believe has some opening comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair Powell, Vice Chair Sviggum, and members of the board. As our presenters make their way to the table, I'll share that as a university and as articulated in Impact 2025, we're very much leaning into our commitment to advance a community and culture where a sense of belonging is strong, accessibility is valued, and equity and diversity are actively promoted. As a community, there's no question that George Floyd's murder accelerated these efforts and other efforts, and grounded in that understanding, I think it's important that we reflect that today he would have turned 48. So members of the board, this summer, we shared with you our 2022 DEI Progress Report, which describes how the university across all campuses, colleges, and centers is meeting our Impact 2025 goals and is also meeting this moment. We can be proud of the historic and impactful steps we've taken together, including to welcome the most diverse class in university history, to launch innovative programs, to establish a new namings and renamings policy, the Native American tuition program, and others. But there's more work to do. And in particular, you will hear more today about the university's DEI system-wide review, which was conducted by Cambridge Hill Partners over the last academic year. And this review mapped the scope and impact of DEI-related efforts across the University of Minnesota system and identified opportunities for us looking into the future. You'll also hear from our new Vice President for the Office of Equity and Diversity, Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez, who, after being here for all of 5 minutes, will be sharing her vision on how we can be the community of belonging we aspire to be. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, she is joined today by Keisha Varma, Associate Vice Provost in the Office for Equity and Diversity, Melinda Lundquist, Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the College of Liberal Arts in the Twin Cities, and Wendy Reed, Dean of the Swenson College of Science and Engineering at the University of Minnesota Duluth. And at this time, I would turn it over to them.
All right, I think maybe what I'll do is turn it over to Vice President Fernandez to kick us off, and then you'll navigate the table of speakers, I'm sure, but over to you and welcome.
Oops. Thank you very much and good morning. Such a momentous time. Thank you, Chair Regent Powell and Chair Regent Sviggum and President Gable and the members of the board. It is an honor to be part of today's presentation about the scope and the impact of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Minnesota. In the interest of time, my comments today will include 3 broad themes that have surfaced during my onboarding since I joined the University of Minnesota 6 weeks ago. As President Gable said, with 5 minutes, what it feels like 5 minutes, really. And then I will turn the floor to my esteemed colleagues, for their presentations, because their presentations are incredibly nuanced and reflect the work that we're doing here at the university in different spaces and places. I want to point out that in your docket, you will find the complete report issued by the Cambridge Hill Partners about the University of Minnesota Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion System-wide Review. Associate Vice Provost Keisha Varma will summarize the findings with the aid of a slide deck that is in your docket and starts on page 96. Dean Wendy Reed of the Swenson College of Science and Engineering at the University of Minnesota Duluth will focus her remarks on efforts around faculty recruitment, and that is an area that is noted as an area of challenge and attention in the Cambridge Hills Partners Report. We will conclude the former part of our presentation with inaugural Associate Dean Melinda Linkwitz of the College of Liberal Arts, who will speak about the broader ecosystem that is intentionally being developed to sustain a student-centered learning environment. But first, I want to thank all who came before me and who worked to influence our ways of being and function towards more equitable and just ways. I recognize those who have formal authority as well as those who continue to work leveraging their informal yet powerful circles of influence for the greater good of the University of Minnesota and our many surrounding communities. The work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not owned by a single person or an office. It is manifested through the collective voice and the collective steadfast actions. Achieving and sustaining inclusive excellence requires moving away from approaching diversity, equity, and inclusion as isolating initiatives. It requires a relentless dedication to cultivating, to implementing, and continuously improving racially and socially just cultures. My experience yesterday at board meetings, really reflected that. It was the operationalization of these concepts that were made evident at the presentations. We were updated about our DEI institutional efforts and progress by the University of Minnesota Morris, Chancellor Sean Erickson. Dean Leyen stressed the focus on DEI in graduate education. The finance and operations presentations included specific DEI goals and the progress on those goals. So in a very tangible way, our colleagues were also part of the presentation of the scope and impact of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the University of Minnesota. The three broad themes that I wanted to share with you today are informed by my praxis that has developed over many years through the integration of theories and theoretical frameworks, lived experiences, community engagement, and several institutions of higher education, but also outside of higher education. I have used data from different times and places and spaces and people and have found, interestingly enough, a very strong alignment of the themes. So one of the things that is noted on the executive summary of the CHP report is coordination, collaboration to achieve coherence, what is referenced in the CHP report as clarity. At the University of Minnesota, there's a multitude of programs and initiatives at the local levels, and we need to move forward towards identifying interconnectedness as a part of strategic relationship. Second is the education and learning spaces. More and more, there's a high demand for meaningful learning opportunities that provide the space to better understand nuanced matters of identity and difference. And third, representation matters. Who is seen as having authority and knowledge? What are the research questions that we will be pursuing at our university that addresses the persistent societal challenges of our time? So we need all brains, we need all hearts and all perspectives. Thank you for your attention during my presentation. I am pleased to introduce Associate Vice Provost Keisha Varma.
Vice President Varma.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Ramirez-Fernandez, Chair Powell, Chair Swigum, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to share a brief overview of the DEI system-wide review and to present some of the ways that the Office for Equity and Diversity is responding to the recommendations, as well as share some of our plans for the future. The review submitted with the docket materials includes a detailed summary of the process, but as a reminder, the process began in October 2021. It was a focus on Impact 25 Commitment for Community and Belonging, and CHP conducted several focus groups and interviews across all of our campuses and with many different groups. They analyzed existing diversity, equity, and inclusion activities and initiatives, and then identified strengths and opportunities for growth. The final report was shared with President Gable and the Office for Equity and Diversity in June 2022, and we will share it with the broader community following this meeting. So the report identifies 4 pathways forward, and each of those pathways informs the others. They are interrelated and dependent on each other. The first pathway focuses on developing a DEI strategic plan. This would supplement Impact 25 by articulating DEI roles and identifying measures of impact. Through this process, we would address questions like what roles should remain within OED and which roles should reside at the campus, school, or department level. We would also address questions like what resources are necessary to produce the kinds of results that are expected, and what are the appropriate measures of impact. As we engage in strategic planning, we will identify internal and external expertise, build on work that's already being done across our campuses and colleges, and leverage information that we have from surveys like CERU, GradCERU, and the Employee Engagement Survey. In response to this recommendation, we've already begun some strategic planning focused on faculty diversity with a team of faculty, academic leaders, and staff representing multiple colleges and our system campuses. The second pathway forward focuses on building a coordination infrastructure. 2 critical facets of this work will involve, again, leveraging existing groups and work, and also recognizing and rewarding DEI work that's being led by our faculty, staff, and students. 2 examples of the groups we can learn from are the Diversity and Inclusion Alliance at the College of Science and Engineering. That includes staff, students, and faculty, and the Diversity Community of Practice, which is a system-wide group that includes staff and faculty. Another way we're working on this pathway is through the newly established Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Awards that recognize and reward DEI work. Last year, 4 of these system-wide awards were given to individuals across multiple campuses and colleges. One of the award winners, Associate Dean Melinda Lindquist, is here with us today. The third pathway focuses on supporting faculty and staff retention and wellness. The report recommends that we develop system-wide retention strategies and enact a climate survey to understand experiences of the university community, especially students, faculty, and staff from underrepresented groups. As you can see in this slide, we are again leveraging existing data and have plans to collect new data from a climate survey in 2023. We are also creating new ways for faculty to pursue administrative leadership as faculty fellows. These are opportunities that will be available in addition to our longtime participation in faculty development through programs like the Big Ten Academic Leadership Program. And now, Chair Powell, Chair Swigum, I will turn things back over to Vice President Ramirez-Fernandez to talk about the 4th pathway.
All right.
Thank you very much, Associate Vice Provost Varma. The Pathway 4 talks about reorganizing the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. We plan to focus on strategic functioning. Again, working on enhancing diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic planning capabilities, expand current DEI education and training offers, and also coordinating and planning with our system institutions, while also encouraging diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI communications, very critical at the local and systems level. We will continue to collaborate with institutional research to disaggregate current reports and fill in data gaps. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dean Wendy Reed from the University of Minnesota Duluth.
Thank you, Vice President Ramirez-Fernandez. Chair Powell, Chair Swigum, members of the board. So I'm Wendy Reed, and I'm Dean of Swenson College of Science and Engineering at the University of Minnesota Duluth. In Swenson College, we talk about being an inclusive learning community committed to diversity, equity, and injustice, and supportive of everyone's personal growth and success. This value statement is the lens through which we view our work within and outside of the college, as well as a guide that defines our path forward. During the 4 years that I've been dean, we've implemented several transformational changes across Swenson College to really build a vibrant and more equitable community. The college faculty and staff are essential partners because they have demonstrated a strong and unwavering commitment to diversity and equity, despite the many challenges that we've faced during the past few years, and importantly, in response to these challenges. And I'll share a portion of our work with you today. Being able to attract high-quality faculty who are committed to our values and our mission as teacher-scholars is foundational to providing an outstanding education for our students. We know that STEM faculty do not reflect the diversity within our society, and over many years, institutions, departments, and individuals have made attempts at rectifying the gender, race, and ethnic imbalance with varying degrees of success. Although some improvements have happened over the years, diversifying STEM faculty has been painfully slow and continues to lag behind the rapidly changing demographics of our students. A diverse faculty leads to excellence, which is particularly important as we face tough challenges, and we need many voices, expertise, and experiences around the table as we solve today's problems and tomorrow's challenges. Last fall, we implemented an anonymized search process across the college for faculty. This was a bold shift in how we conduct faculty searches on our campus. Based on research about implicit biases that affect search outcomes, we asked candidates to provide research and teaching statements in an anonymized form, which removes information that can spark biases. The research and teaching statements and the diversity, equity, inclusion statements submitted by candidates were anonymized with respect to names, institutional affiliation, the journal names, and they were decoupled from each other, and they were separated from the candidate's curriculum vitae. So search committees evaluated these two statements with rubrics, which were also shared with candidates in advance, and only after complete review of the statements were those statements combined and revealed with the candidate's curriculum vitae. This focused search committees on the skills and experiences needed to be successful faculty members at UMD. Search committee members reported that interviews were much deeper because candidates had a better sense of Swenson College, of UMD, of the Duluth community, and we had a better sense of their skill sets. So last year, 3 of the 5 candidates hired in Swenson College identified with populations historically excluded from the STEM fields. Other colleges at UMD are also implementing the anonymized searches, and we are taking the anonymized approach with its accompanying transparency to rethink how we do other searches, awards, and other evaluative processes. Swenson College has invested significantly in efforts to create an inclusive and equitable environment. So in spring 2021, Swenson received a generous estate gift from Dr. Howard Highholt for the establishment of endowed chairs and professorships to advance collegiate goals. This extraordinary opportunity allows us to support new and existing tenure-track faculty who have incorporated justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion into their teaching, research, and service programs through these endowed professorships. We are also using the professorships to recruit incoming tenure-track faculty to join our ranks and make a difference in Swenson College. The Highholt Endowed Chair is designed for tenured faculty to spend 2 years of dedicated time to design and implement programming that will be impactful college-wide in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So taken together, this gift allows us to commit $500,000 every year to support faculty who are committed to DEI work in the college. And this ultimately benefits our learning community. We have also established the Swenson Gender Equity Team to support and address climate for women and other historically excluded populations in Swenson College. An advisory board of 5 female identifying faculty were selected to undergo training and oversee the establishment of this program. These board members then sought applicants from faculty that identify as male to become advocates. They selected 5 male counterparts to lead these efforts. Together, these faculty meet regularly to discuss policy changes, host listening sessions, plan workshops for their fellow faculty, and develop best practices for Swenson departments and programs. The collaborates with an outside Allies and Advocates consultant to facilitate regular pulse surveys for faculty and staff to track attitudes and perceptions of efforts to improve the climate. Future plans for the program will incorporate staff members and increase the number of advocates to continually expand the program's reach and effectiveness in gathering and addressing gender and other inequities. So this program is very unique in engaging men directly in the work of achieving gender equity. In fall 2020, the college began a new program called Bridging the Gap. So I want to share just a few student programs. And this really focuses on increasing the retention and success of Swenson College students who are taking time away from campus. So they're either delaying their start or they're stepping away from UMD for a time. So it's a free online program that connects admitted or current University of Minnesota Duluth students with volunteer faculty, business leaders, career development specialists to really support their student success when they're in a gap year and help them return to college later. The focus of the program is really on professional development and study skills that will help them when they return. We collaborate with Student Life, Academic Advising, the Career Center, Office of Diversity and Inclusion to really prioritize participation of underrepresented students. The students all receive a scholarship to come back to UMD when they're done with their gap year. And we've seen a lot of success and a lot of reaching out to students from different backgrounds. Research is also a central experience for a STEM student at UMD. We know that these research experiences for undergrads are one of the most impactful activities that students can engage in during college. Undergraduate research experiences in Swenson College have launched successful scientists and engineers that are changing lives in Minnesota and beyond. Our alumni include doctors and business leaders, scientists and engineers who advise US presidents and Nobel Prize winners. A common experience of many of our alumni is research they conducted as an undergraduate student. Currently, about 40% of Swenson students report having a research experience by the time that they graduate. Many of these opportunities are targeted to juniors and seniors, and they rely on students having both the time and the means to find and access these experiences. This past summer, Swenson College received a very generous philanthropic gift that will allow us to provide all Swenson students with the opportunity to engage in authentic research experiences and transform the way that we teach science and engineering at UMD. And over the next 5 years, we will be engaged in a project to ensure that 100% of Swenson students engage in authentic research experiences from the time they walk into our doors to the time they cross the stage at graduation. So providing equitable access to these high-impact research experiences is a priority and will really transform lives and STEM education at UMD. So in conclusion, we have multiple efforts underway that are showing promising signs of positive impact in the college. This work is continuous, it's everyone's everyday work, and we'll continue to monitor and measure our work and learn how we can do better and more. Support from the board and the system leadership is critical to maintaining our focus and resources on critical DEI work. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have been part of the University of Minnesota system and do this work. I will pass the baton over to my colleague, Dr. Lindquist.
Thank you so much. Vice President Fernandez Ramirez, Associate Vice Provost Varma, thank you so much for your partnership and for inviting the College of Liberal Arts to share some of our work today. Dean Reed. Thank you, Chair Powell and Svigum, as well as the rest of the members of the board. In the College of Liberal Arts, our Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is faculty, staff, undergraduate, and graduate student facing. The new Liberal Arts Engagement Hub, a model of anti-racist, mutually beneficial community engagement, is also supported by our office. While I'm going to focus most of my remarks today on a portion of our student-facing work, I wanted to preface these comments by echoing OED's commitment to clarify, connect, collaborate, and communicate in ways that build capacity, that support diverse, equitable, inclusive, and just higher education communities and experiences, and encourage us to lean into our commitments and be accountable to our diverse communities. A large portion of our work is clarifying, clarifying what policies and practices get us closer to our aspirational vision of CLA as an equitable destination college. Towards that end, we have established the CLA Equity Lens Policy Review Committee, which grows out of a similar committee in OED's Diversity Community of Practice that's charged with reviewing all of the university's administrative policies. Dr. Emilius White, the co-chair of the university committee, is the assistant dean in my office, and he is shepherding our collegiate community through this work, building on what he's learned in that space and adding new data and accountability-driven feedback loops to the process. CLA's committee demonstrates what is possible for other colleges throughout the university system, and we look forward to sharing what we learn in that space. Connecting and collaborating are two of the main ways that we do our work. First, by helping to connect the range of efforts taking place across the college in ways that support shared equity leadership, development, and action. And second, by collaborating with academic and administrative units in ways that make diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice everyday efforts that shape how all members of the college understand their work. This fall, our office has also started to regularly communicate with all faculty, staff, and graduate students about what it means to do this work. The brainchild of Stephanie Gandy, the assistant to the associate dean in my office, our new mechanism is called the CLA Call-In. It arrives in all CLA inboxes on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. to educate, reinforce, encourage reflection, create and encourage conversation, and model what it means to center diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice in our work every day at the start of the week. It's the first hour's work. As the largest undergraduate college in the University of Minnesota system, with an increasingly diverse student body, I want to spend the rest of my time highlighting our student-facing work. CLA is proud of the demographic diversity and excellence of our student body. We are also mindful that student diversity is not an antidote to structural and systemic barriers that continue to undermine diverse students' complete enjoyment of their collegiate experience. Rather, what this demographic diversity signals is our need for humility and love and care as we work together to meet our responsibility to serve and support our diverse student body. Towards that end, CLA is the home to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Social Justice Advising Community, the oldest continuously running justice-focused advising community of its type in the nation. Founded after the Morrill Hall student takeover and currently led by Director Alex Hines, all CLA students are invited to join this community, which uses a holistic and culture-sustaining advising model. MLK students participate in educational programming that fosters deep engagement with complex issues of power and privilege, and support students' exploration of modes of advocacy and activism that enhance their capacity to imagine a more just world and to help to begin to create that world. First-year students are also invited to reside in the MLK beloved community's living, learning community. Across CLA, from undergraduate education in the Office for Research and Graduate Programs to our academic units, we are deeply committed to improving the experience, retention, and persistence rates and graduation rates of Black, Indigenous, and students of color, and undergraduate students with intersecting marginalized identities. What this has meant over the past 5 years is a sustained commitment to the professional development of our student support and instructional staff, with the goal of sustained reflection and implementation of culturally responsive pedagogies that reduce harm and strive to improve campus climate. Over the past year, our office partnered with the Center for Educational Innovation and has co-developed a series of workshops entitled Teaching and Learning in a Predominantly White Institution. Open to our entire teaching community, we also extended an invitation to our liberal arts colleagues on the Duluth and Morris campus. We examine how to incorporate equitable and inclusive teaching practices, how to cultivate a healthy class climate, and how to move from diversifying your syllabus and curriculum to having complicated conversations about the ways in which race and gender structure many of our fields of study. The workshops are designed to create a space to speak amongst peers and explore and respond to classroom scenarios that emerge from the real-life teaching experiences of our faculty. In CLA, we're committed to meeting all of our educators where they are as they continuously improve and evolve their pedagogical, curricular, and disciplinary practices to meet the changing needs and evolving expectations of our students and communities. We are also home to faculty and to units who are leaders using their expertise to transform practices nationally and internationally. In our Department of Philosophy, 3 faculty members have joined ranks and formed the Center for Canon Expansion and Change, an effort to fundamentally rethink the philosophy canon in ways that invite diverse students to see themselves in this predominantly white and male disciplinary space. In undergraduate education, the College of Liberal Arts has pioneered a nationally acclaimed career readiness model that encourages all CLA students to explore and examine what engaging diversity means in a liberal arts education, as well as what it means in terms of navigating the job market. They simultaneously created a space for career readiness faculty fellows to consider how they engage diversity in their classes and to create a regular community of practice that offers continuing support for their efforts. The Director of Faculty Engagement for CLA's Career Readiness Initiative, Dr. Amy Lee, is also the Director of First Year Writing. And she, in first year, is also the Director of First Year Writing. I'm going to end here because frequently when I'm in meetings with my colleagues in the College of Liberal Arts, which can feel very siloed, it's a large college, and we're all actively doing our work in our different corners. I frequently ask, when are we a college? And how can thinking like a college, instead of discrete units, get us closer to the vision and mission we are trying to live into? Dr. Amy Liu, who has this dual role, both with career readiness as well as the Director of First Year Writing, she's well known, she's a highly respected scholar in the area of equitable and inclusive pedagogy. CLA is incredibly lucky to have her stewarding 56 PNA instructors and graduate students in their work with over 5,000 first-year students every year. She has built a pedagogical model that has decreased equity gaps. She is helping to create a foundational threshold experience that first-year students will want to see replicated as they move through their academic program. My point here is, when are we a university? How do we muster the incredible work that's taking place system-wide to learn from each other and to not only be our best, but to do what is best for all of our students? And I look forward to working with Vice President Fernandez Ramirez and our colleagues across the system as we answer this question. Thank you very much.
All right, very good. Thank you. Vice President Ramirez-Fernandez, so that concludes the formal part of the presentation. Well, while we're waiting, I think we want to open it up for some question and discussion now. And while we're waiting for those to come in, let me make a few comments. First of all, thanks to the 4 of you for the overview this morning. We really appreciate it. I just want to, observe to Vice President Ramirez-Fernandez, really appreciate your opening comments on, your focus on development or refinement of the strategic part of this work. And you mentioned strategy and really priority goals and how we're going to measure and the resources. And you also touched on, some work should be done centrally. Some work should be done at the campus level. And While that is sort of maybe the nuts and bolts of this kind of work, it is very complicated, but it's also the level at which I think the board can engage in, most effectively, because we want to help, and it's at that level, I think, that we can engage and really be as helpful as we want to be. So appreciate those opening comments. And then the other thought is just sort of maybe a personal reflection on work in this area that I've been involved in over the years. Climate surveys are so crucial. I mean, just getting the data and getting data that is comparable to other institutions around the country. There's those numbers tend not to lie. And so I think, powerful, deep climate data is really crucial to this work, and I appreciate that, the priority that plays in the efforts. So those are my thoughts. I think there are others. Regent Verhalen would like to comment.
Yes, I would, and thank you to each of you for bringing these important topics to the forefront. As someone who came up in a STEM field, particularly in engineering, diversity in general was difficult, but presence of women as well was really a challenge. I can think of 3 female professors I had in my STEM courses, and of those, 2 of them were no longer employed at the university after my 2nd year. They were adjunct professors, they were not tenure track, and so they were on a year-by-year contract basis. And that left the 4 women who were in my program with no female mentors in our degree program and advisors after that point. And it was something that was definitely felt in our program when they left, and a real loss at that point in time. And so I am pleased to see such a focus, both in Impact 2025, but to see such a movement brought forward in a focus of how does this university not only attract diversity in faculty, but retain that faculty, whether they be tenure track or contract faculty, but how do we retain them? And thinking about the added benefits that diversity brings. It's not just in research, it's not just in kind of the core concepts that higher education has held up. It's also in itself creating and perpetuating a welcoming environment, which I know each of you are acutely focused on, but appreciate the time each of you took to be here today and really highlight these important issues for us and what you're doing to continue to bring these into how we are, as a university, looking at the next step of this institution. So thank you.
Any others? All right. Thanks to all of you. Thanks very much. We really appreciate the update, and we look forward to the work that is to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. So that now brings us to our committee business. We'll begin with a report of the Audit and Compliance Committee. Regent Kenyanya.
Stepped out for a moment.
Okay.
Let's just.
As Vice Chair, I would ask if we could move that to a later point in the presentation.
I think we should. Point taken. So then, Regent Hipsch.
I'm here.
You're here and you're ready.
The Litigation Review Committee met yesterday, and at this meeting, we adopted a resolution that authorized the closing of the meeting to discuss matters subject to the attorney-client privilege. Thank you.
All right. I think we'll go now to the Mission Fulfillment Committee. Regent Johnson.
Mission Fulfillment Committee had 1 action item this month. The committee voted unanimously to recommend approval of the consent report, which includes academic program changes and the conferral of tenure. I move approval of the revised consent report.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Regent Johnson, any additional committee business?
No, thank you, Chair Powell. That concludes my report.
Okay. Oh, very good. Yes, please. So Regent Rocha, you'll do the audit report for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Stepping in, the Audit and Compliance Committee did not consider any action items this month. Our agenda included 3 discussion items. First, Chief Compliance Officer Boyd Coomer and Jasmine Danielson, Youth Safety and Compliance Manager, provided an overview of recent changes to the university's Safety of Minors program. Additionally, the item included a primer on the compliance risk review process. In our second item, University Controller Sue Paulson and Director of Purchasing Services Molly Viola walked us through the committee's role in the view of the audited financial statements. Later this month, the committee will have the opportunity to see and review these statements prior to their final issuance by Deloitte. Our final item was a regular internal audit update. Chief Auditor Galswick reported that since June 2022 update, 44% of outstanding audit recommendations rated as essential were resolved by university departments. This exceeds the expected implementation rate of 40% and a significant increase since June when the implementation rate was just 29%. Mr. Chair, I would ask that my pronunciation of people's last names be audited before the next meeting, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Very good. So noted. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to the report of the Finance and Operations Committee. Regent Mayron.
Thank you. The report of the Finance and Operations Committee includes 4 items this month. The committee voted to recommend approval of the resolution related to the state biennial budget request for fiscal year 2024-2025. I move approval of the resolution.
Any discussion? Regent Verheugen.
Do we need a second first?
I'll second.
We've got one.
Okay. Our parliamentarian is saying no. I would like to present an amendment to the resolution that we, as the Finance and Operations Committee moved forward yesterday, and Mr. Langworthy is passing this out. It includes both my proposed amendment as well as a proposed revision to a slide that we saw yesterday. And so I would move to add a be it further resolved provision to the resolution that states included in the biennial budget request are the following recurring increases. Core mission, $45 million for fiscal year 2024 and $45 million for fiscal year 2025. Minnesota Resident Scholarship, $30 million for fiscal year 2024 and $0 for fiscal year 2025, and Public Safety, $5 million for fiscal year 2024 and $0 for fiscal year 2025. And I would ask to provide some additional input after this has been seconded.
Okay, we've seen the amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Okay, Regent Verheugen, would you like to speak to the
Yes.
amendment?
Thank you, Chair Powell. So this is in response to the dialogue we had yesterday, and considering the importance of our Minnesota Resident Scholarship and the affordability for Minnesota residents and that portion of that focus, it would be a modification to the slide and really emphasizing that $30 million for fiscal year 2024. And just to be clear, where it says $0 for 2025, that is because the $30 million is requested to continue into 2025. We're not making an additional request for 2025. So I wanted to be very clear on that, and it's the same for public safety as well. And then the slide has been revised to reflect the Minnesota Resident Scholarship item as a combined item.
All right. I believe Regent Farnsworth, who is on Zoom, would like to comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And my comment is I'm generally supportive of this. However, I'm wondering if someone from OBR or someone could email those of us who are on Zoom these attachments, because I want to make sure I read it before we get to the vote. So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe it was just emailed, so you should have it in your inbox.
Nick of time. Okay.
If I can make one request, just because yesterday we had a very fulsome discussion with SVP Franz and President Gable, if President Gable has any reaction to this.
We are, thank you, Mr. Chair, Regent Verheugen. We are supportive of the board's collective wisdom of how we best serve students in the state of Minnesota.
Regent Rosha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, if for no other reason than to give Regent Farnsworth a chance to read his email. I want to say thank you to Chair Verhalen, or to Regent Verhalen, in this case, you're.
Just Regent.
That's just Regent in this case, many hats. I appreciate this. It goes to legislative record, which, based on past experiences and professions and in my background, is important. I would note that the board, at the time of receipt, will, at the recommendation of the president, make decisions on how it's apportioned. For the legislative record, I'm reading resident scholarship as encompassing all opportunities from direct scholarship to tuition controls and everything else. But with that, I think this is a good plan. I plan to support it enthusiastically. And I would also make the point to the legislature that if circumstances exist, exceeding the $30 million for that purpose and exceeding the $5 million for public safety would all be in the best interest of the state of Minnesota and the university. So thank you very much, everybody. I will be voting yes happily.
Other comments? Yes.
I'm supportive of the motion. I think it's great, and I'm glad, especially glad that Regent Rosha is going to support this. Thank you.
Regent Farnsworth, have you had a chance to have a look?
Thank you, Chair Powell. I thought it'd be appropriate to circle back after reviewing my email and want to thank you to Regent Verhalen for bringing this forward. I am supportive as well. It addresses some of the concerns I think that we discussed as a board yesterday, and I was a little hesitant, but voted in support yesterday, and I'm enthusiastically voting in support of this amendment. I think it's the right governance process that us as a board, reacts and provides input based on collective wisdom to strengthen a proposal by administration. And so want to thank my colleague for bringing this forward and look forward to supporting it.
Very good. Thank you, Regent Farnsworth. Anyone else who'd like to speak to the amendment? Mr. Steves, maybe you can help me with the order in which things need to be done now. The amendment has been moved and seconded. Do we go ahead and vote on it?
Mr. Chair, yes, you'd vote on the amendment, and then you'd be back to the main motion from the committee.
Okay. Any further comment? All right, we'll vote on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, the amendment passes. Now we revert to the main motion for discussion. Do we withdraw or?
Nope.
We'll still need to, Mr. Chair, we'll still need to vote on it. It's just if there were any additional discussion that regents wanted to engage in around the topic before you vote.
All right, moved and seconded. Any comments, discussion? All right, on the main motion, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Okay, very good. Back to Regent Mayron for the rest of her report.
Thank you, Chair Powell. The other three items were unanimously recommended by the committee for approval by the board. Those items include the following: the resolution related to the 2022 six-year capital plan, the resolution related to the amended and restated operating agreement of 2407 University Investment LLC, and the revised consent report, which includes 3 purchases of goods and services $1 million and over, 2 capital budget amendments, and 3 schematic designs. I move approval of those items.
All right, so we unanimously, well, let me ask if anybody wants to separate any of those items that were unanimously approved. Seeing none.
I now move approval of these items.
Seeing how they've been moved, it's been moved that we approve all 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right. Regent Mayron, anything else?
There were no other action items this month, Chair Powell. Thank you very much, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. And then finally, the Governance and Policy Committee, Regent Verhalen.
The Governance and Policy Committee did not consider any action items this month. Thank you, Chair Powell. That concludes my report.
Okay, very good. That concludes the committee reports and brings us to old business. Any old business to come before the board? All right, don't see any. Any new business to come before the board? All right, thank you. We'll now move on to item 11, which will take up first a resolution to conduct a non-public meeting so that the board may receive a security briefing focused on our information security infrastructure. As required by the open meeting law, I will state now, before closing the meeting, that during the closed session, we will be discussing the University of Minnesota's information security infrastructure, including threats, controls, and responses, and that disclosure of the information to be discussed would pose a danger to public safety or would compromise security procedures or responses. So I'm going to ask Mr. Steves now to read the resolution from our docket, and then we'll seek a motion and a second. So Mr. Steves, please proceed.
Mr. Chair, the resolution reads as follows. Regents of the University of Minnesota resolution to conduct non-public meeting of the Board of Regents to university to discuss university information security threats, controls, and responses. Whereas the Board of Regents will receive a security briefing related to the University of Minnesota's information security infrastructure, including threats, controls, and responses, and disclosure of the information to be discussed would pose a danger to public safety or compromise security procedures or responses. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.05, Subdivision 3D, a non-public meeting of the Board of Regents be held on Friday, October 14th, 2022 in the boardroom, 600 McNamara Alumni Center for the purpose of discussing information technology security threats, controls, and responses.
Very good. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion or comments? I don't see any. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, that carries. So that resolution is approved. We're going to take a very short recess now, 5 minutes to provide the audience time to leave the room. And also at this time, we will end the live stream broadcast. So we'll take a recess.
Perfect.